What an awful thing to realize you're no longer entirely sane. That your walls and barriers, carefully, so carefully built around your mind, have collapsed, and you didn't even notice. That the quiet sounds in the night were not the gentle wind, but a brick softly crumbling, letting out a sigh as it stopped doing its work. And the most painful part is that you haven't done anything to cause it. Your walls weren't weak, or your precautions too simple. You just have a different gravity than others, and it's in your nature for your sanctuary to fall. I started to write poetry around this time. Sometimes the poetry was just so very dark and so very sad when I was going through really hard times, and reading it back, it's hard. It's very hard.
As a parent, you never want to believe that there's something wrong with your child that is serious.
When I was 6 to 7, kind of in the early years, I just remember being worried kind of all the time. There was no reason for me to be afraid, but I just kind of had this pervasive worry.
These things are normal, this will pass. And this went on for years and years. And we realized something was more serious. Maybe we should get her some help and talk to the doctor about seeing someone.
Moving into teens, the anxiety, the worries were still there, but then coupled with this kind of sadness, this depression, and I started to know something wasn't right.
When I saw my daughter struggling so badly, I was terrified for her.
I would still try to go to yoga with my mom, and I remember the end of class, you lay in Shavasana, just laying on the ground, and I would lay there and I would just be crying. And I would reach out and hold my mom's hand while I was crying. That's a hard memory.
When she was going through her roughest times, I had a feeling she didn't want me to know how badly she was doing.
My mind was evolving past just being worried about things. I just thought I was having these awful thoughts and these things that I thought were true that I knew weren't.
Here we are again, starting from scratch with a psychiatrist and telling everything that Jordanne's been going through, and now the psychiatrist says, okay, well, I think it's probably this, and puts her on some medication. But with mental illness, there's not a test you can do that will give you a positive that, yes, it's this, and this medication will help this, but you need to try.
Now in hindsight, I can look at it and understand that it was psychosis. At the time, I didn't know. So I thought I was dead, which is where the whole, I know this isn't real, but there's this piece of me that's screaming, that is saying that I'm dead and that this is not the real world. But at the same time, I could feel that my heart was beating. I could feel that I was warm. So it's impossible what I believe, but I believe it so much. I mean, at that time, I was engaging in self-harm. It's an addiction, but it's a way to ground yourself and your body. And I was trying to do that any way I could.
I couldn't help her. I couldn't stop what was hurting her. It was terrifying for me. I was terrified I was going to lose her at that time. And I got the phone call, and she said, hey, Janet, I just need to let you know Jordanne is, she's fine, but she's at Emerge at Lionsgate.
So I remember I was seeing a counselor at that time, and I went to see her one day. Obviously, she could tell that I wasn't doing well. And at the end of every session, she asked me the same question of if I was feeling safe. And in that time, I answered her honestly that day. And I said no. And she asked me if I had a plan to do something. and I didn't answer. When I was leaving there, I had a plan to kill myself.
Getting that phone call that she was in the hospital was terrifying, but also a relief. At that point, I didn't know the detail, but I was grateful that that's where she was instead of in the forest and having taken her own life.
It felt like a horrible realization that I couldn't be kept safe of my own mind. I couldn't trust my own mind to not do that to myself.
In total, she was there for 2 weeks. And I remember this one day, I went to see her. I still didn't know all the right things to say. I didn't. And I started to say, well, maybe it's better if you come home. And she didn't feel well to come home yet. I got very frustrated and I just started to impose, what I felt were the right ways to deal with this in the moment. And she told me that I was not helping her and said, I'd like you to go. I was afraid that I'd just blown our amazing relationship. And I fell to pieces. I just sat in the stairwell and I cried. And I cried. I couldn't even imagine her not wanting me in her life. Shortly after Jordanne came home from the hospital, somebody said to me, Janet, I heard about this course and this place. You should look this up. It was called Pathways, Serious Mental Illness Society. I looked up what resources they had, but what caught my eye was a course that was called Family to Family. And it was to help you as the caregiver who has a loved one to navigate the system and cope. And I thought, boy, do I need that.
Once I was in the hospital, I just decided that I wanted to get better. I decided that I was going to do whatever it took to get better, to figure out how to manage my bipolar and everything else that goes along with it, with the help of that psychiatrist. She got me started on mood charting. I really latched onto that, something that I could see and I could look at and I could see the trends. That felt like it grounded me. I did it every day. I didn't miss a single day.
So the Family to Family course, it teaches you so much and gave me control in some way of at least understanding what we were dealing with. I was in this classroom with all of these people who had a daughter, a son, a brother, a spouse. I'm hearing what they're going through and I knew I wasn't alone, and it gave me a lot of comfort. I learned some very valuable skills about how to communicate with Jordanne, to not make matters worse, and to help her get through really tough times and moments. And the more I learned, I felt like we were gonna be okay.
But around that time, I started to notice that our communication got a lot better, especially when I was having those really hard nights. And she would come back and I'd be, on the floor in the kitchen crying. She would just sit with me. It really helped me to reach out and get that connection in and start to heal a little.
Reflecting back now at what I learned at Pathways helped me to understand and not panic about medications and diagnosis, and the way we moved forward from that point probably saved Jordanne's life.
Being able to reach out to people really became important, and feeling safe showing people that side of me that I felt was too dark for anybody else to handle. Today, I can confidently say that I am in a place that a younger me, in her wildest dreams, never could have believed possible. And I'm unimaginably proud of myself. Every once in a while, I take that moment to think about, to remember the me that I didn't leave her behind. And she's still there on some days. Bipolar still moves. But I think her and I are friends. way the moon disappears into the night and comes back full bright, that is what I'll do. And I recognize that I wasn't, maybe I was behind some clouds and I was not there, but I would come back and I would make something where I would make my life something that a younger version of me didn't even think was possible.